Back on the SportsMax zone, Argentina are currently facing Chile in the opening match in Group A of the Copa America in Brazil. At halftime, or approaching halftime, Argentina leading this fixture by 1-0. Lionel Messi, the scorer. The match is currently live on SportsMax 2. The tournament kicked off on Sunday with two matches. In the opening game, Brazil faced a Venezuela team that had 12 players and staff testing positive for COVID-19 on the eve of the game. Colombia and Ecuador met in the second encounter. Here's Donald Oliver with a recap.
On Sunday, Brazil kicked off the defense of the Copa America with a comfortable 3-0 win over Venezuela. After several missed opportunities, the Seleção opened the scoring in the 23rd minute.
To be taken by Neymar. Flicked on again, has broken into the 6-yard box, and Brazil lead. Marquinhos scores the opening goal of the Copa America.
Brazil dominated the game, and in the 64th minute had just reward when Johan Kumana clumsily took down Danila near the byline. The resulting penalty was calmly converted by Neymar.
Takes his time. Couple of side steps. Stutter in the run-up. Neymar, 2-0. Cool as you like. Brazil 2.
Substitute Barbosa made it 3 after a clever finish from a Neymar cross in the 89th minute, putting the result beyond doubt. Brazil will next be in action on Thursday when they take on Peru. Colombia also made a winning start in Group B, a scrappy 1-0 victory over Ecuador. The winner coming 3 minutes before the halftime interval, an example of beautiful choreography. The goal was initially ruled out for offside, but that decision was reversed after a VAR review. The result means Colombia have gone 3 games unbeaten since Rueda took over as coach and sit second to Brazil in Group B, only on goal difference. Colombia next face Venezuela on June 17, with Ecuador next in action on June 20, also against Venezuela.
Okay, our South American football correspondent Juan G Arango joins us now to discuss what has happened so far at Copa and probably a little bit on what happens later on today and in the weeks to come. Juan, let's start with Brazil. They're favourites, they're defending champions. Venezuela didn't offer much of an opposition for them on Sunday afternoon. Your thoughts on the defending champions' first outing?
To start out, as far as Brazil are concerned, you start looking at a team that really there was a little bit of underwhelming performances in terms of individual play, if you want to look at it from that perspective. Obviously, Neymar wasn't one of them. He did very well. You started to see Marquinhos, and I wasn't sure if you or George asked me the other day, what's the importance of Marquinhos? I think he kind of embodied it in yesterday's performance as well. But you also have to give a lot of credit to a Venezuela side who, you know, with Band-Aids and whatever they could find, they were able to put something together on the pitch that at least at a certain point ended up being competitive, ended up being a team that was defensive and truly limited the amount of opportunities Brazil had in front of goal until obviously it all started falling apart once the goals started coming. But you have to give a lot of credit to Brazil. We knew it was going to happen, and that's why Brazil are currently the main contenders for this tournament.
Yeah, as many as 15 players had to be shipped in for Venezuela on the eve of the match because 12 players and staff were coming down with COVID-19. So 22 minutes into the game and Brazil hadn't scored yet. There was a feeling that Venezuela was giving it their best shot.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it was. They were very noble in that opportunity. You had a couple of players that just came in hours before the match, maybe less than 24 hours before, and they were starting for Venezuela. So you start to see that they had no time. They didn't play World Cup qualifiers. They were coming in last minute. So whatever they were able to contribute with, it ended up being a bonus. And hey, fine, they lost 3-0, but they showed personality. I think that's where one of the things that Jose Peseiro really has to look at going into the game against Colombia.
Yeah, the format of Copa America, Juan, not too exacting because 5 teams in each group and the top 4 advancing to the quarterfinals. Your thoughts on what the Colombia-Ecuador match served up? Peru, the team that hasn't played yet in this group, what would they have thought about what they've seen so far?
Well, you know what? One of the things, Peru might have been struggling during World Cup qualifying play, but if you look at recent Copa Americas, they've been very successful in them. They're the type of team or the type of group of players that within a context of a short tournament can be that semifinalist, can cause problems to a Brazil, especially if they're Their defensive block is good, and I think that's going to be one of the issues that Brazil's going to have to contend with this entire tournament. So from the Peruvian perspective, they see, hey, you know what? We can come in, we can get a win or two, get into the next stage. We can cause some problems depending on who the matchup ends up being.
Juan, we were talking last week about the importance of the veterans in the Chile squad, and the news around Alexis Sanchez isn't good. So there's a creativity issue, and perhaps it is that Argentina is exploiting that now as we speak, that game going on, of course, on SportsMax. But I don't see Chile, as we'd say in cricket, really troubling the scores in this tournament if a man like Sanchez, coming off a strong season for Inter Milan, isn't able to play a part in this tournament.
In the group stage, if we look at it from that perspective. Now, if he's able to return, now he has to be back at 100%. I had mentioned earlier today in a couple of interviews that the problem with Alexis Sanchez's injury is that he can't plant his foot. So I guess that's going to be a very serious point if you're a player that has to demand your feet and has to run. And that can be an issue, but also the opposite is true as well because of the compensation that occurs in the healthy foot, because it has to be able to carry so much weight and compensate for all the other foot is not able to do. Now, going back to the creativity side, yes, you're right as well. You don't have that creative player for Chile, but despite that, we've been able to see a lot of pressure, and I think it's going to be more off the pressuring and the counterattacking that Chile is going to have to be more, I guess, more of a grinding kind of side, a team that's going to have to try and find every single 50-50 ball to create an opportunity for their forward. Remember, they're playing with Edu Vargas, and you're playing with Palacios up front. Palacios has only played like 3 matches so far with Internacional in Porto Alegre ever since he came over from the Chilean league. He scored 8 last season in Chilean football, but again, that's not a good barometer in terms of how good he is to replace a player like Alexis Sanchez. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of problems scoring, there's going to be a lot of problems creating, but nonetheless, if they sneak in, and I think they will, they can be a team that is going to, once they get Alexis Sanchez back, to have a different rhythm.
And on one thing I didn't get to provoke you about before the tournament started, well, even a man who's not a betting man would bet on Venezuela not coming out of their section. Who's the other team in the other section that won't come out and go to the quarterfinals? And it won't be Bolivia, because anybody wanting to think Bolivia would have been one of the soft boys this tournament will look at their most recent World Cup qualifying performance and know that this Bolivian team is serious this time.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to say that this is the first time since 1985 that they're able to get back-to-back, well, not able to lose on back-to-back occasions. You look at Venezuela, you look at Ecuador. On that side, you start looking at Venezuela as probably the team, unless they start getting healthy again in terms of COVID. The other side, it could be anyone at this point.
And that's the point I'm making.
Chile, for that matter.
It's kind of difficult, yeah.
As well, if you look at it, it can also be Paraguay, depending on how they play today.
Lottery for the other one. So Venezuela is certain. I'm certain Venezuela won't go on to the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
But the other team in the other group, I'm not sure. It can't be anybody. You're correct, man.
It can be. I mean, I'm not sure if it'll be Argentina or Uruguay or even Chile, but I mean, I would not be surprised if you end up seeing a Paraguay end up going down and get eliminated in the first round.
Yeah, and Juan, Lionel Messi is playing his 6th Copa America. No titles for Argentina. I suspect Argentina fans aren't watching you at the moment, so you could say the worst things possible about them regarding their hopes in this tournament.
In terms of, I mean, you know, I think Leo said it best yesterday. He's, hey, we have to play at our best football, and we'll find out what happens. You know, if they're not playing 100% or they're not playing at their maximum potential, then there really is no argument. There really is no merit to be able to say, yeah, you know what, Argentina blew it, or Argentina was able to win the title, however, you know, it ends up being. But he says we have to play. We have to be the masters of our destiny in terms of being able to put ourselves in a position to play against a Brazil, to possibly beat a Brazil. So I guess you have to look at it from that perspective as well. And again, the main thing that we have to look against Brazil is how are they going to be performing? If they're going to cruise through it because they think that they're that much better than anyone else, which they are, or are they going to have to really face a lot of roadblocks along the way with defenses that are going to be back line of 5, a defensive line of 4 in front of them, and not really allowing many opportunities like Venezuela did in the early part of that match yesterday.
Yeah. All right, Juan, as usual, always great talking to you. We'll be in touch as Copa America moves into high gear in the coming weeks.
All right, we'll be here.
Okay, George, your narrative on Lionel Messi has been pretty, I don't want to say horrible, but you think he's pretty much finished or almost finished. No chance for Argentina here?
I think they have a very good chance on the contrary, Lance. Here's the thing. Every time Brazil come into a Copa America as the overwhelming favorites to win, they find a way to lose. And when you analyze what Argentina have done with Messi in the finals of major competitions, 2 Copas and a World Cup final you can use as reference, there hasn't been much in it, Lance, and it's another horse racing reference. There hasn't been much in it. Mario Götze's goal, well, special goal, beating them in the World Cup final, and in the Copa, 2 penalty shootout defeats at the hands of Chile. The point is that there have been details that have caused Argentina to not lift the World Cup and to not lift the Copa with Messi. Gonzalo Higuain, until the day he dies, he'll carry the guilt of wasting Argentina's best chances in the World Cup. The fact is that Argentina, if they get there, and Messi is good enough still to get them there, if they get there, Lance, anything is possible, especially if they meet Brazil in the final. Brazil have a way of idling when they know that they're the best team in the competition. I'm not trusting them entirely when they have this huge favorite tag on their head.
Yeah, so beaten finalists in 2015 and 2016, Argentina exiting at the semi-final stage in 2019 with Messi complaining bitterly about refereeing and so on. Now the Copa America, of course, continues later on Monday on SportsMax 2 with Paraguay facing Bolivia. Okay, and in a moment, I'll give you the lineup for what happens later on and maybe tomorrow as well. The points table at the moment, Brazil and Colombia with their victories on Sunday, top of the table, 3 points each. Peru yet to play, of course. Ecuador, Venezuela, the 2 teams beaten on Sunday afternoon by Brazil and Colombia, yet to get any points in the tournament. So don't forget, on later on Monday, Paraguay against Bolivia. We see that at 8 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time, 7 o'clock in Jamaica, and the Argentina-Chile game ongoing at the moment on SportsMax 2. And watch the SportsMax Zone on Tuesday for a comprehensive recap of the action.